Imagine creating a system to track 1.2 billion people, photographing them, fingerprinting them, cataloging them, giving them all IDs. My next guest is not just imagining that system, he is tasked with making it a reality in India. Nandan Nilekani is the chairman of India's Unique Identification Authority. His previous claim to fame was as one of the founders of Infosys, India's pioneering technology firm. Welcome.
Thank you, Fareed.
So explain, how does one even think about this? And there's so many parts to it, but let's just first start with the technical thing. So you're taking India's entire population, which, I mean, previously has barely been counted, let alone, and you're going to try and give every single person a biometric ID.
That's right. We have already enrolled 200 million people in the last 3 years since the project began. And we're using the biometrics to give them a unique number, so that they don't end up having more than one number. But what's most important is that this is a digital online ID. So we're taking people, many of whom have no ID whatsoever, and taking them to the digital world. So it's like a leapfrogging of identity.
So why is this so important, for India? I mean, what one hears about is that these people are supposed to get loans or grants or various things from the government, and most of it never gets to them. I remember the Prime Minister, Rajiv Gandhi, saying that of the $1 that we spend on poor people, on average, the poor person receives 10 cents.
15, I think, but whatever, 15 or 10 cents.
The middlemen take up all the rest of the money.
Well, actually, there are two primary drivers for this. One is that we still have millions of people who don't have a formal identity or acknowledgement of their existence by the state. And unless you have a formal acknowledgement of existence, you can't get a bank account or a loan, you can't get a mobile phone, you can't get your entitlements, you can't get a job, you can't rent a house. So everything is linked to your basic identity. So this, in some sense, you can think of as a massive inclusion program to get the poor and the marginalized and the identityless into the formal economy. So that's one part of it. The other part is that the Indian government spends something like $60 billion a year on entitlements and benefits to millions of people. And they need to make sure it reaches the right beneficiaries. So by having this ID system, we can make sure that people's scholarships, pensions, employment guarantee schemes all go directly to the right person, either into the bank account or whatever account. So both it makes government expenditure more efficient, effective, and equitable, and it's a massive inclusion exercise.
How difficult is it? You were an entrepreneur in a space in India that is famously free of regulation, because the Indian government basically didn't realize it existed, the high-tech space.
Well, they were actually quite supportive.
But that's at least the mythology. Now you're in the heart of government. How much more difficult is it to deal with the bureaucracies, or which is worse, the bureaucratic obstacles or the political obstacles?
Well, I think the way I see it is simply that in the private sector, the number of people you have to convince is much less. You convince your management team, your board, your investors, your analysts, and you go and do something, go in a new direction, buy a company, whatever. In the public space, you are answerable to a lot more stakeholders. There's the government, parliament, the bureaucracy, activists, journalists, the judicial system, the investigators. So I think what I've learned is that the amount of time you have to invest in evangelizing and consensus building is hugely much more in the public space. And crafting a strategy which is sort of acceptable to everybody really takes a great deal of time. And that's where the big difference to me between the two worlds.
Do you think that you will face obstacles as you try to do this, because there will be people who are disempowered? I mean, after all, when you provide these benefits to people, it used to be that there would be a village chieftain who was the intermediary who would take away some of the benefits. There would be bank managers there are all these people. This is this seems to me the largest act of disintermediation that I can think of.
Sure. I mean, once we have millions of bank accounts and people's money goes directly electronically straight through processing into the bank account, fully auditable, and they can go and withdraw that at any location, like going to any ATM, then obviously it changes the empowerment game. But the way we see it is, while there could be some people who are disenfranchised by this, look at the fact that 200 million people or more will get enfranchised, they'll get empowered. They will become the allies for this change. So our goal is, we recognize that any change, there will be opposition. I mean, Machiavelli wrote about this 600 years back. But it's more about how do we create allies who actually support this change. For example, because we use the banking system, the banking system will support this. So we create allies, and of course, finally, the people themselves. If they see their lives improving, they will be the best endorsers of this.
You first came to international fame as the man who told Tom Friedman that the world is flat.
I just mentioned it to him.
Well, it's the first page of the book.
Yeah.
Do you look at the landscape of these emerging markets that you were talking about and the way in which they had all these competitive advantages, or at least an equal level playing field? And do you think something has changed? Because you are seeing a slowing down of the BRICS. You're seeing, India has slowed down, China has slowed down, Brazil has slowed down, Russia is slowing down. Have these countries, there was an era of cheap capital where everyone was booming. Have you hit a brick wall?
Well, I think certainly the message is that I think, there's one set of drivers or levers that take you from, X $200 per capita to $1,000 per capita. But as you keep going up, I think, and as you have also said, it's about institutions, it's about creating a level playing field, it's about regulation, it's about, creating easy entry of entrepreneurs, competition. So then the thing gets much more complex, I think. And that's where a lot of these countries are facing those challenges of migrating into that world.
Are you bullish about them still?
Oh, absolutely. I think the fundamentals have not changed. There may be some tactical issues, but the fundamentals have not changed.
Nandan Nilekani, pleasure to have you on.